Whether we feel judgment against somebody else, ourselves, or a particular situation, we know that judgment doesn't feel right with us. So in this video, I want to talk about how judgment is generated, how it repeats, does it make us feel the way it does, and how or in which way can we alleviate this generation of constant judgment. Again, keep in mind that judgment is going in all these directions. There is judgment against somebody else or about a group, situation, circumstances of the outer world, but most importantly, within us, there's judgment against who we are. However, in any way that you wish to explore it, whichever example that you want to use, we're always going to find the same core principles in judgment, and that's what we're interested in. Now, first things first, we're not here to judge the judgment. We're not here to try to change it, to control it, to get rid of it, or anything. We're interested in just one thing about judgment. That is understanding it. All right, if you agree with me here, then we can continue. Because we're here to understand. Even if you have some residual convincing idea that, no, I need to control it, Gabe. I need to make myself better, so I don't need to understand it. You have to admit that if you don't understand it, how can you change it? How can you control it? Right? Even the most manipulative people in the world, they need to understand what they're manipulating. So bear with me. Let's just try to understand what judgment is. And be very simple with this. Don't make it something complex. I'll try to help you with that. So what is judgment, if not a sort of idea, a story, a narrative that we have always against something or someone or ourselves? That's it. There is, I feel this way about that. I think this way about them, or whatever it is. Right? You have to understand that's what's happening. And one thing about judgment is that it doesn't make us feel good. So it doesn't make us feel joyful, expansive. It always contracts us. That's why we feel that I don't want to judge others, myself, situation. So those are the three elements that we can see the judgment has, right? So and this is very important, notice this in your experience. I judge something, I say something or think something about someone, a situation, or myself, and I don't like how that feels. That's it. Okay. Normally, this is what happens. We look at the story or the way we talk about somebody and we say, no, that's not right. I shouldn't be doing that. Okay? Notice that. I shouldn't be doing that. And then another thing that we do is that I don't want to feel this way. This is terrible. I don't like judging because it makes me feel this way. So notice that. But we never question the I that is doing it. Am I really judging somebody? Now, 99% of people would be very convincing about this and say, of course it's me. And they're somewhat right. But there's a key distinction that needs to happen, and this is where we open our investigation to understand what's really happening in judgment. If we question the I in which judgment is arising, what would happen? Am I really judging? It's okay. You may say, of course I am, Gabe. I judge everybody. It is me. I am the source of this terrible behavior that is called judgment. Fine. What do you mean when you say I? Look for it. Now, if you have been in this channel for a little while, or following my teachings for a while, or maybe interested in self-inquiry for a while, then you know where I'm going through. But bear with me if you haven't. Just question, who is this I? And what do I mean when I say I? I am the one that judges. And you begin to see that there is nothing that I refers to as an individual thing, but actually the awareness of the judgment itself. That's why it feels so personal. That's why it feels like I am doing it. But doing it is a very important word, right? Doing is a very important word. Because are you doing it, or is it appearing in you? That's a key distinction. Because when thoughts arise and you say, that wasn't my thought, right? There's a insight there that you had. That wasn't my thought. What about if all thoughts are not yours? What about if all thoughts actually simply appear? That's what we're seeing. We're not saying that the thought is from somebody else. We cannot see where, if it comes from somebody else. We just notice that I wasn't doing it. Right? Let's stay with proof. Let's stay with the evidence. We truly don't know where it came from. It did come within me, though. So could it be that judgment is also happening in that way? And in fact, if we go deeper, we'll find out that everything is simply happening through what I call I, in the same way that thoughts are originating out of seemingly nowhere. Right? We could go deeper into this, but the most important part here is just to notice that what if judgment is simply arising as just thoughts? Something is disconnected here, which is the feeling that I am doing it. I am the one judging. And so I feel this way. And a new opportunity arises, which is intelligence. When you are not the one doing it, when you're not the one responsible, then there is freedom. There is a liberation of something that used to cause this contraction. And now you are not the one judging it. The way we feel may continue to be that way. The story may still be convincing, but we have uprooted the one important part, which is I, the one judging. Now, what we do see is that it doesn't generate the cycle that it used to generate before. Because if I was doing it, I am responsible, so I must be that way. You see how to generate the cycle? It generates the cycle by saying, I am the one doing it, so it must be that I am this way, and so I will continue to be this way. It contracts into a personality, just like many other things in our personality that we don't feel that are really ourselves, and yet they cycle, only because they have one single thing that validates it. Without that, remove that I that creates the cycle, and suddenly there is just a story, something said about someone, yourself, or a circumstance, situation, right? You see that, and then the feeling begins to debilitate also because you know that you're not doing it. It's simply happening. A lot of people are afraid of this because they say, oh, then I won't have a sense of responsibility. And I'll get to that. I'll give you an example as to how that can be generated from the wrong perspective again, and how that wrong perspective can actually be used to debilitate the same thing over and over again. But I want to first tell you that there is an alternative. When we remove that and judgment continues to arise as information only, thinking, there is an opportunity, which is an intelligence that tells us, it's the same intelligence that tells us that's not good. This intelligence is not something extra dimensional. It doesn't come from some complex part of the mind. It comes from the very nature of your being. The intelligence that told you, that's not right. I shouldn't feel this way. It's the same intelligence that will continue to act to understand the judgment or the reason of the judgment. That intelligence is how you feel. That's why when you were caught in the judgment cycle, because the separate self, the I that was doing the judgment was there, you felt the same intelligence cycling with it as the feeling of, I don't like this. I need to fix this. I need to, all this. Now remember, you needed to fix that because you were doing it. But if you're not doing it, you don't need to fix it. And yet the same intelligence that was making you feel, it makes you feel bad, just like when you touch something hot, right? It makes you feel bad. There's an intelligence telling you, don't touch that. You're going to burn yourself. So emotionally, we feel the same way when we judge in a negative way something. We can say judgment always is negative in this context, but it's the same intelligence. So what do you think is going to happen if you stop identifying with the one that judges? Then suddenly that intelligence can work and give you insights about what you are judging. And the more you sit with that, because you have no predetermined, no premeditative intentions, you kind of understand exactly what you're judging. What is it that you're not seeing clearly? That's why we sit in this understanding, whether it be of self-judgment, others, or circumstance, situation. We sit with it in silence, without this separate self always saying, I am the one judging, I shouldn't be doing this, and so on. That's what we work together in this. Now, if you can see all of this now together, right, the same elements, the I that judges, the judgment, which is a narrative, a story, something to say about somebody, someone, etc., and the feeling that we get when you remove this I, then the story is information. The way we feel is what tells us not true, right? Just like not touchy, don't touch the hot thing. Right? That's the intelligence working. And that intelligence always moves into kindness. Kindness is the nature of our being. And when it's left alone, without that contracted self, it works in a kind, loving way. That's why judgment turns into discernment, opportunity to understand and be more ourselves. I'm not going to say be better, but be more ourselves. You could say be better, that's okay. I just don't like that language because it feels like we're wrong right now. We're not, we're just not seeing clearly. We move into clear seeing. I'm going to give you one example that is very useful to see why do we fear the detachment from identity, this identification with the judge that is judging. Right? We say, I'm going to lose my responsibility. Right? We felt that we had responsibility to fix, to make amends, and to do all this because we thought we were doing it. Instead, we're inviting here to see what if you're not doing it? It's happening. It's true information that's giving you discernment so your intelligence can move into kinder ways. That's what I'm suggesting here. The example is the following. Imagine you're at work, family reunion, just a circumstance with other people. An accident happens. Maybe a tray full of glasses falls and there's an accident. Okay, there's a situation. Now, you didn't cause it and it wasn't you that was handling it, or you weren't involved basically. Okay, that's the same thing we're saying here with judgment. You see something and you say, I didn't do it, it didn't happen to me. Now, what would be our reaction? Naturally, you're already thinking, of course I'm going to try to help in whichever way I can, right? Our intelligence moves into discernment in a kind way. That's what happens. But what people fear is that if I think that way, which is the recognition that I wasn't doing it, right? I wasn't involved, then I will become that, I wasn't involved, that didn't happen to me, so I'm just going to turn around and go to my room or somewhere else. You will never do that, right? Unless we're thinking again as the separate self that says, oh, I found a way in which I don't have to be involved with this. That is judgment, right? It says, oh, I can get rid of judgment by saying I'm not that. Perfect, I'll do that. It still feels wrong and you know it. So it's a great opportunity again. If you feel this, it's a great opportunity to see that, oh, there it is, the separate self again, feeling that is the one doing it. And so it can do something else. That's why I said, don't fix it. Just become aware. Our practice is precisely that, to identify constantly how this doer, this thinker, is manifesting, trying to control things. If we identify this, it's not just judgment, but everything else in our lives, which some people like to call the spiritual path, and I'm okay with that, but that continues to unfold in a kinder, more peaceful, equanimous, and loving way, which is what every single human being in the world is looking for. Once we do this recognition, our practice is based on that, on continue to recognize who am I in this moment and what am I not. That's our practice. That's what self-inquiry is for us. And that's how we teach this meditation, effortless meditation. That's all I got. I hope this is helpful to invite you into seeing things clearly for what they are. Just look at them with the interest of investigating the nature of what is happening, particularly judgment, and that you can liberate the only thing that matters, so you can see actually your own nature expressing itself as kind, loving, and in a more intelligent way, as opposed to cycling this. That is the nature of judgment, and that's how you can understand it better. I'll see you in the next video.